Time now for sports on 104.7 The Cave. Here's Ned Reynolds.
Mike, the intern, Ned Reynolds, back in the studio. Thank God it's Friday. You know, the Kansas City Chiefs really have a chance to right the ship this Sunday in Philly. You know, every game's important, but this one for them is definitely going to be, hopefully when we're at the end of the season and we're telling the story of the season, the turning point.
Well, I think it has a chance of being that way, and I really do think the Chiefs win regardless of this. But it's important for another reason, in my opinion. The Chiefs' defense has been much maligned in these first three games. Now, they did win the one over the Cleveland Browns, but they've lost the next two, and defense has been very much criticized. Well, against a Philadelphia team, I'm really interested to see what Philadelphia does offensively. Of course, Mike, the coach, Nick Sirianni, is a former Chiefs assistant coach and a very highly valued one. He knows the system, and he knows what Jalen Hurts' quarterback needs to run against this team. That's the key. Can the Chiefs' defense stop Philadelphia? They'll stop them, of course, but the manner in which they stop them, I think, is going to be a barometer as what they can do for the rest of the season. Most of the pundits, including me, say, hey, this defense will get better once these guys learn their scheme. Well, how long is it going to take to learn the scheme? You're into the season already. Well, if Philadelphia has a big day offensively, I don't think they will, but if they do, that's not very good. Regardless, I think the Chiefs win anyway, but it is a very telltale game for them.
Definitely is. I'd like to see that D step up. You know, like I mentioned earlier this week, I got Sanders in one of my fantasy football leagues, and he touched the ball twice last week, so not too worried about that. They definitely don't know how to use him, and they haven't used him so far this season, so hopefully that'll play into the Chiefs' favor, and I'm screwed on fantasy. There was another story that was released about the Chiefs yesterday I was going to ask you about. What's your thoughts on that?
Guy's name, the writer, is a young guy named Jake Kokoris, and he writes for a media outlet that's on the internet called Arrowhead Addict. And I found this to be a very interesting story. He says the Chiefs, one of their objectives right now in the next few months, weeks or months, is to address the contract that Frank Clark has with the team. Now, normally, when a writer writes about that, he says, oh, gosh, we have to pay this guy more. Not in this story. He says it's time to restructure it less because Frank Clark has not contributed what a lot of Chiefs fans and a lot of reporters think he can. The reporter, Mr. Kokoris, goes on to say that he says, hey, Frank Clark's a good edge defensive player and all that, but he's not one of the 15 best in the league. And as a mathematics standpoint in this story, he says the salary cap for this year that Frank Clark's contract makes as a hit is almost $26 million. Next year, it will be over $26 million. This is the salary cap hit. And in 3 years, it'll be almost $28 million. Restructure it. It's going to give you more circumstances in which you can work to get other players. Whether or not the player goes along with this, whether or not the player's even with a team, remains to be seen.
You know, so far, most of the guys have come to bat and said, you know what, we want a good team and we'll restructure. Everyone, for the most part, has. So we'll see. They are going to get paid. But we'll see what Frank does. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what he thinks his value is and the decision he makes after they give him that contract. Last night, Thursday Night Football, kind of both of us kind of poo-pooed on that game we were talking about yesterday, but it turned out to be not a bad game, to be honest with you.
Wasn't bad at all.
I mean, Burrow did great. Lawrence did great. I think Lawrence still has a few things to learn. There was a couple decisions he made I thought were like, oh, man, if you would have done this, that's good. But he's young. But, hey.
Though. Did he make them or did Urban Meyer make them?
There was a goal line stance where I think he had the option to pitch, and he took it himself again. And the Bengals were waiting for it because he had just done that and scored on the previous drive.
And he did not.
And he should have pitched it out all day. And now I'm not just saying that because I had that running back on my fantasy team, which I did. And he ended up scoring 2 touchdowns anyway. It doesn't matter. But at the same time, I was focused on it, so I saw that the option was there, and the Bengals were ready for it, and he didn't bend. I go, man, he should have pitched it out. But, you know, he's young. And, again, they seem to have flashes of explosion. Both teams did. But I was kind of surprised when I woke up that the Bengals came back and won this thing.
Jacksonville's not a bad ball club. They still have, as you pointed out, a ways to go. And Lawrence does. He needs more experience. I'm not sure that Urban Meyer is the great coach that everybody says he is, but be that as it may, not the point.
He's a jerk.
21. They had 21 points on the board and led 21-7 at one time, and the Cincinnati fans are booing. Well, Burrow heard this, and Burrow has a pretty good core. They're not big names, but a pretty good core of receivers. Got them down, got the game tied, and then set the Bengals up with a field goal virtually at the end of the game, and they boomed that one through. I think it was 30-some yards, whatever it was. And that's how Cincinnati won the game, 24-21. Cincinnati is the better team. Most of the teams that Jacksonville plays this year will be the better teams. I noticed that one of the Sunday morning games in London, which are usually throwaway games, is Jacksonville and Atlanta.
Hey, we said about this game, and look what happened.
This one I'm sleeping in on.
Oh, yeah. Well, those London games, God, I remember when the Chiefs played, and I was like, what time do I have to wake up to watch that thing? So, yeah, we're not tailgating that, baby. But, yeah, it was definitely a lot better than I thought it was. And it was, sometimes you get, every now and then we get good Thursday night games. So that was a good one to have for sure. And so the Cardinals are kind of in cruise control now, really, until Wednesday night when they face off whoever they're going to face off in the wild card game. I know I'm going to watch that. I cannot wait. 7 o'clock or 7:05 first pitch. And you surprised at the starter?
Hardly. That's no surprise at all to anybody. But the Cardinals did make it official yesterday. They will start Adam Wainwright in that ball game on Wednesday. You make a very interesting point, too, on the time, the starting time. It'll be the only game that night. The American League wildcard game is Tuesday. National League game is Wednesday. Why is that? Does anybody need to ask? Come on. It's TV. And, of course, without question, the game will be on the West Coast. Probably in Los Angeles, but that's not definite yet. But regardless, it is on the West Coast. However, on the West Coast, it will probably be 5 o'clock when they start that game, 5 o'clock their time out there, and 7 o'clock ours here because they want that game in prime time on TV. So, yeah, Adam Wainwright will be the Cardinals starter. Who the Cardinals play, we don't know yet.
Man, it's going to be crazy. And they got a win last night against Milwaukee.
They did. 4-3 was the final score. Got a couple of home runs from Dylan Carlson, and, of course, that meets very well with the Cardinals front office because he is alleged to be a future star on the team, and he may be. He was a big star down here with the Springfield Cardinals for the brief time that he was here, and Carlson can play the game. But the Milwaukee club, I'm a little bit puzzled by them. It's an interesting team. Now, they have won the National League Central Division, and they won it rather handily. They were up by 13 games at one time. They're going to finish winning it, whatever happens, but it'll be by probably 6 or 5 games, somewhere around there. But, Mike, they are not a real good offensive ball club. They don't score a lot of runs. They beat you with pitching and defense, and whether or not that can hold true in the playoffs, it's already known who they're going to play. They'll play the Atlanta Braves, and that'll be a nice little series, Atlanta against Milwaukee. I wouldn't be at all surprised. Of course, the team with the better winning record will get the home field, and that will be Milwaukee. So they'll have the home field in that best-of-5 series, which will start a week from tonight. But a very interesting situation, but we're more focused on the Cardinals and what they're going to do.
Now, the Royals yesterday did lose to Cleveland 6-1. Did that one run from the Royals come from a Perez home run?
It would have been great if he did play. He did play in the game. This is after suffering a sprained ankle, falling on the bottom step of the dugout. And, hey, those things happen. Salvador Perez had a great year and has 3 more games to go now, and they'll be against the Minnesota Twins to establish a new Kansas City Royals home run record. He has 48 now. He is tied with Jorge Soler, who is no longer with the Royals, for 48 home runs in a season. And Soler hit his last year. So this record, actually, that's not true. It's about 2 years ago. But the fact of the matter remains that that's a heck of an achievement by Salvador Perez. And in my opinion, a guy who should be a candidate for most valuable player. He won't win it because he's not with a contending team. Not that that's a criteria, but it is a criteria for the voters who do this. And it'll go to a kid from the Los Angeles Angels, Shohei Ohtani. He'll get the MVP award more than likely. But Salvador Perez is right there. He should be a deserving candidate.
He definitely is in the running, but the kid from L.A., though, you want to talk about a complete baseball player. I mean, it doesn't get any more complete than that kid.
Case in point is Sports Illustrated magazine, which came out with their issue last week, and they have him on the cover. And the bottom line on the story is, as good as Babe Ruth? No, better.
I mean, He's a machine. He's a machine. Speaking of machines, the Ned Talk machine keeps rolling on Sunday. You guys got another brunch time start, 10 a.m. Bloodies and mimosas for the boys this Sunday.
We really run the gamut, because this week we do have the early morning one, 10 a.m., and then next week we're back to 5.
Man, it's all over the place this season, all over the place.
But yeah, that's the Chiefs pre-game show, and it's here, of course, at 104.7. And it'll be the Kansas City Chiefs playing the Philadelphia Eagles. And my crew and I will be here at 10 on Sunday morning, run from 10 to 11. Then Art Haynes takes over with Mitch Holdus at 11, and then the game to 12.
Don't let the guys give you too big of a hard time for the green and white, man.
No, I can't legitimately. They don't stand a chance in this game, so I can't.
I hope you're right. I definitely don't want to wake up on Monday in the mood, and I really don't want to have to worry about you peeking your head in here, afraid to talk to me on Monday morning, Ned. You have a good weekend. I'll see you then, sir.